Hi, and welcome to our first episode of Coaching from the Couch Outside the Box. So you might be wondering why we're still here on the couch. Well, we have a few things we need to go over first because of some things that I saw on the worksheets that people submitted yesterday. There were a few things we were still struggling with. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to go over some of those things. Specifically, rate of perceived exertion. That's a scale that runs technically from 0 to 10, although 0 is basically if you're doing what Ash is doing, sleeping. So really we want to focus on the 1 to 10. I'm going to put a chart over top of my face right about now that explains all that. On our worksheet, on our review packet that went home the week of 3/30 download that should be in the library now on all classes. It talks about that you should be exercising at a level that feels like it's a 3 to 4. So that's a moderate to somewhat heavy. That's slightly off, but yes, that 3 to 4, 4 to 5 range, as you saw on the chart, is really where we kind of want to be for the most time. Sometimes into that 6, 7, 8 range if you're really pushing it, really getting after it. But really you do want to stay more towards that lower middle to middle area. So we've established that Ash is at a 0. I'm just sitting here on the couch talking to you, so that's pretty much at a 1. I feel like I'm at a 1. I don't feel like I'm putting forth too much energy, exerting myself too much. So let's go ahead and check my heart rate. And I'm at about 88. Well, that's because I've been walking around a little bit trying to get everything set up to film this. So that's why it's probably a little high for what it should be for just sitting here on the couch. We're going to go ahead and move outside, and we're going to go ahead and look at some other ways we can get our heart rate up. Now, one of the other activities that you could do that is mentioned on our worksheet was a brisk walk. I'm going to go ahead and take Ash, who's apparently camera shy right now, or he's actually just really excited about going on his walk. We're going to go ahead, and it probably won't quite be a brisk walk, but we'll go ahead and see when we get back. All right, you ready? Come on, let's go. All right, so made it back from our nice walk, fairly leisurely. Got my heart rate just over 100, not quite where I want it to be, still a little low for my target heart rate. So now let's go and explore some other things we could do. Okay, since I didn't exactly get my heart rate where I wanted to, I was out on the walk with Ash because I couldn't stay consistently at a good, quick pace. I figured I'd go ahead and give it a shot on a treadmill where I have a lot more control. Also, I did say that, getting it over 100 wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. That technically is in my target range, just not where I wanted to get to. So we're going to go ahead and do a brisk walk here on the treadmill, see if I can get my heart rate to around 120 is what I'm going to shoot for here on this. We'll see how that goes. The other great thing about treadmills is a lot of them have built-in sensors so they can take your heart rate for you on the hand grips. It does make it a little difficult to walk though when you're doing that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and jog a little bit, see if I can get my heart rate up that way. bring it back down to a walk because I am over 120. Feeling pretty good right now. Starting to maybe sweat a little bit. Now, you've noticed that I've been checking my Fitbit to get my heart rate the whole time. We're going to go and figure out how to check our radial pulse to get our heart rate that way. Before we talk about how to check our radial pulse, let's go over one thing that I forgot to mention after my walk with Ash and when I was up on the treadmill, and that's kind of what we really wanted to focus on is our RPE. So when I was on the walk with Ash, because he stopped quite a bit and we just never got into a good rhythm, I'd say that was probably a 2 or a 3. It was pretty light, pretty easy, you know, not too terribly difficult. We held a good conversation while we were out there. On the treadmill, it got a little more moderate. 4, 5, maybe even a 6. And as I told you, I did stop when my heart rate got to about 120, which is what I was shooting for. Shortly after getting off the treadmill, I noticed my heart rate had still increased. I got up to a 130. So I was really getting in a good, vigorous activity. While even though it was brief, I still was able to get some benefits of that. So those were my RPEs there. Now let's go ahead and talk about radial pulse. You notice I was checking my Fitbit quite a bit. Got my old traditional watch back on. Love this thing. And what you need to do is find so on your arm you have 2 bones. Your radius is on top. Your ulna is on the bottom underneath. U for ulna, U for underneath. So our radial pulse is this bone on the top. You're going to go right here on your wrist, and you should feel it beating. Now remember to use your index and middle finger. What happens if you use your thumb? Well, the problem with using your thumb is it has a pulse also. So if you use your thumb to check it, you're going to get twice as many beats as you should. I think some of you may have done that based on your worksheets, because I saw some numbers that were pretty high for resting heart rates. A couple people asked to go back and redo things, and they did. A couple people just made some math errors. That's fine. Great worksheet to figure those things out. So I have found my radial pulse right now. I'm going to go ahead and count it for 15 seconds. And I've got 20 beats right now. I'm going to go ahead and take this back off and put the Fitbit back on. So my 20 beats in 15 seconds. Now I want to find out my beats per minute. So I need to multiply that by 4. 20 times 4 puts me at 80. I'm glad my body decided to make the math easy for me. And here in just a minute, I should be able to get a reading on my Fitbit. It takes a second for the heart rate to be detected properly. And it's showing me at 85, so we're in the ballpark. It's, you know, the Fitbit is pretty accurate. It's not always spot on. This is not a medical device. Now, a couple other things that we had on the worksheet were had to do with when is the best time to get your how to truly get your resting heart rate. Well, when are you most truly at rest? Because I didn't see anybody put this down, but I did get a lot of great answers. When you're truly at your most rested state is while you're asleep. So that's when a Fitbit could come in handy to, if you wear it while you sleep, and it keeps track of your heart rate overnight to find out what your true lowest level of heart rate is. That would be a great way to do that. A lot of people did put, while lying down, while fully rested, using some sort of a device to check it. Absolutely, I agree completely. Another thing that was on that worksheet, which I didn't realize I mistyped this until I started seeing answers that didn't quite match up with what I was expecting to get. The very last question of those 4 questions on the very bottom, where it talked about what exercise does to your target heart rate. Well, if we think back up to the top of the page, on the front side of the page, our target heart rate is based on our age. So exercise isn't going to have too much of an impact on our age. What I meant to say was, what impact does exercise have on your resting heart rate? So that's the question I want you to go ahead and think about today. One simple, easy question. I take that back. I have one other thing I want you guys to do. I want you to think of 3 additional activities, not ones that were on our worksheet yesterday, not ones that we did here today, which mostly were on our worksheet, but 3 additional activities that would be good for getting your heart rate up, and tell me whether you think it would be what level of rate of perceived exertion it would be, and how high you think that your heart rate would get. Those you should be able to estimate that. So you're just going to simply send me a message through Edsby. I'm not even going to have it set up where it's as a quiz or worksheet or anything. Just send it as a message. Speaking of that, I know some of us were having some difficulty downloading the worksheet. When you click it to open it up, there will be a spot where it just says download. I believe you will save that you'll save it as a Word document, and it should be editable at that point. I know you cannot edit it when you just have it open. The other thing, off on the right hand side, there are 3 little dots. If you click on that, it drops down. You can save it as a PDF. PDFs are typically editable. If neither of those things work for you and you're not able to type it in and not able to print it off, no worries. What I want you to do is grab a sheet of loose leaf, look at the questions, write them down. This goes for any of our worksheet type activities. Now, if we have quizzes, whether you go in and they're multiple choice, hopefully you can figure out how to go in and do that. I know there's been 2 or 3 students who have told me they are having trouble even with our daily attendance quiz. And guys, please, 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 check yes. You are not going to be happy when you've checked no all week and you get a call from someone in our guidance office asking about your attendance because you have not been in attendance. When you have, you've just been checking the wrong thing. I have one last thing before we wrap things up. We have to move our Zoom conference till Friday. So we are going to do probably a 12 noon and 2 o'clock, because I have a Zoom conference that I have to be on with the head of the PE department here in Hillsborough County that morning at 10, so I cannot do our 10 o'clock one. And again, you are not required to come to the Zoom meetings, only if you have questions on any of the work we've covered leading up to Friday's quiz. So if you want to get up Friday morning, take the quiz, not worry about the Zoom conference because you're confident you got all the questions right, you're good to go. All right? Hope everybody is staying safe, and remember, it's a great day to be a Mustang.